Dr. Ahmed was a man of science, always seeking knowledge. His life was dedicated to uncovering the secrets of the past, hoping they might help shape the future. Today, his journey had taken him to an ancient site, deep in the heart of the city. It was an old, forgotten temple, buried under layers of time and dust. Most people had forgotten about it, but not Dr. Ahmed. He had heard rumors of strange symbols and hidden chambers, and he was determined to discover them. The air inside the temple was thick and heavy, carrying the weight of centuries. Dr. Ahmed carefully made his way through the narrow passage, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The walls were covered in carvings, depicting scenes of gods and mythical creatures, their stories long lost to history. He could feel the presence of something ancient, something powerful, but he brushed it off as his imagination. As he moved deeper into the temple, he found what he was looking for, a hidden door, concealed behind a large stone statue. It took all his strength to push it open, and when he finally did, he found himself in a small chamber. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on it lay an old, dusty book. Dr. Ahmed approached the book with caution. It looked fragile, as if it could crumble to dust at any moment. But his curiosity got the better of him, and he carefully opened it. The pages were filled with strange symbols and writings in a language he didn't understand. But one thing was clear: this was no ordinary book. As he flipped through the pages, a strange feeling washed over him. The air around him seemed to change, growing colder, and the shadows in the room seemed to move on their own. Dr. Ahmed felt a chill run down his spine. He knew he was not alone. Suddenly, the ground beneath him began to tremble, and the air was filled with a low, rumbling sound. Dr. Ahmed stumbled back, dropping the book as the room was filled with a blinding light. He shielded his eyes, trying to see what was happening, but the light was too bright. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the light disappeared, leaving the room in complete darkness. Dr. Ahmed's heart was pounding in his chest as he tried to make sense of what had just happened. He reached for his flashlight, which had fallen to the ground, and turned it on. As the beam of light cut through the darkness, he saw something that made his breath catch in his throat. Standing in the middle of the room was a figure, tall and imposing. It was not human, that much was clear. Its skin was a deep shade of blue, and its eyes glowed with an eerie light. The figure radiated power, and Dr. Ahmed knew immediately that this was no ordinary being. The figure looked down at Dr. Ahmed, its glowing eyes narrowing. "Who dares to awaken me?" it asked, its voice echoing through the chamber. It spoke in a language Dr. Ahmed didn't understand, but somehow the words made sense in his mind. Dr. Ahmed took a step back, his mind racing. He had read about beings like this in ancient texts, but he had never imagined he would come face to face with one. I am Dr. Ahmed," he stammered, trying to keep his voice steady. "I didn't mean to awaken you." The figure seemed to consider this for a moment, its eyes studying Dr. Ahmed with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "You are human," it finally said. "How is it that a mere human has the power to summon me?" Dr. Ahmed didn't know how to answer that. He hadn't done anything to summon this being, he had only opened the book. But he knew that this was no time for explanations. "I don't know how I did it," he admitted. "But now that you are here, maybe we can talk?" The figure tilted its head as if considering his words. "Talk?" it repeated, its tone curious. "Very well, human. Let us talk. But know this, you have awakened a power far beyond your understanding." Dr. Ahmed nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning of a conversation that would change everything. The room was still as Dr. Ahmed stood before the ancient god, a mix of awe and fear running through him. The being's presence was overwhelming, its very existence a challenge to everything he knew about the world. But Dr. Ahmed was a man of reason, and he knew that fear would not help him now. He took a deep breath, steadying himself as he prepared to engage with this powerful entity. The god, with its glowing eyes and imposing figure, seemed to radiate power. It looked down at Dr. Ahmed, its expression unreadable. "You are brave, human," the god said, its voice echoing in the chamber. "But bravery alone does not make you worthy of my attention. Show me the strength of your kind." Dr. Ahmed hesitated for a moment. He knew that the god was not talking about physical strength. It wanted to see what humans were truly capable of. And in this moment, Dr. Ahmed realized that this was an opportunity, not just to prove himself, but to prove the power of human knowledge and wisdom. "I will show you," Dr. Ahmed said, his voice firm. He turned to the equipment he had brought with him, tools of modern science and technology. He picked up a small device, a scanner designed to analyze energy sources. "This is a tool we use to understand the world around us," he explained, holding it up for the god to see. "It allows us to see things that are invisible to the naked eye, to measure and understand forces that we cannot touch." The god watched silently as Dr. Ahmed activated the scanner. The device emitted a soft hum as it began to analyze the energy radiating from the god. The screen lit up with data, showing patterns and readings that were both fascinating and terrifying. Dr. Ahmed studied the results, his mind racing with possibilities. "This energy," Dr. Ahmed said, looking up at the god, "is unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's powerful, yes, but it's also complex. It's not just raw power, it's something more." The god's eyes narrowed as it observed the human's actions. "You seek to understand my power with your tools?" it asked, its voice carrying a hint of challenge. "Your devices are clever, but they cannot grasp the true nature of what I am." Dr. Ahmed nodded, acknowledging the god's words. "You're right," he said. "Our technology is limited, but that's why we strive to learn, to understand more. We humans are always searching, always pushing the boundaries of what we know. It's what makes us strong." The god seemed to consider this for a moment. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, it raised its hand. The air around them began to ripple, and suddenly, a burst of energy shot from the god's hand, striking the wall behind Dr. Ahmed. The stone shattered, pieces flying in all directions, yet not a single one touched the human. Dr. Ahmed flinched, but he stood his ground. The display of power was impressive, to say the least, but he knew that this was a test. The god was showing him what it could do, waiting to see how he would respond. Instead of reacting with fear, Dr. Ahmed did something unexpected. He turned back to his equipment and calmly adjusted the settings on the scanner. He aimed it at the remnants of the wall, analyzing the energy that had caused the destruction. The device beeped, and more data appeared on the screen. "You have great power," Dr. Ahmed said, his voice steady. "But power without understanding can be dangerous. We humans may not have your strength, but we have the ability to learn, to adapt. And that is our true power." The god's expression remained unreadable, but there was a shift in its stance. It lowered its hand, the air around them calming once more. "You speak with wisdom, human," the god said, its tone thoughtful. "Perhaps there is more to your kind than I have seen." Dr. Ahmed nodded, feeling a sense of relief. The tension in the room began to ease, replaced by a growing sense of mutual respect. The clash of power and wisdom had shown the god that humans were not just weak creatures to be dismissed. They were something more, beings with the potential to understand even the most ancient of powers. "Let us continue our talk," the god said, its voice softer now. "There is much we can learn from each other." And so the conversation moved forward. No longer a challenge, but a true exchange of knowledge and ideas. The god, once dismissive, now saw the value in what Dr. Ahmed had to offer, and the human, in turn, began to glimpse the vast wisdom of the ancient being. The ancient god sat quietly, its glowing eyes fixed on Dr. Ahmed as the conversation continued. There was a growing sense of curiosity between them, a desire to understand one another. The god had shown its power, and Dr. Ahmed had demonstrated human wisdom. But now the god wanted to know more. What truly drove humans? What made them unique? "Tell me, human," the god began, its voice calm yet commanding. "What is it that fuels your kind? You are not the strongest nor the most powerful, yet you have come so far. What is it that drives you?" Dr. Ahmed paused, considering the question. It was one he had often pondered himself. What was it that made humanity different? What was the source of their resilience and determination? He looked at the god, and in that moment, he knew exactly what to say. "We are driven by something deep within us," Dr. Ahmed replied. "It's not just our minds or our technology. It's something more fundamental. It's our spirit, our will to survive, to explore, to create, and to connect with others. It's the essence of what makes us human." The god's expression remained unreadable, but there was a flicker of interest in its eyes. "Your spirit," it repeated. "And what does this spirit do when faced with challenges, when everything seems lost?" Dr. Ahmed smiled, remembering countless stories of human perseverance. "When we face challenges, we don't give up," he said. "Even when the odds are against us, we keep fighting. We adapt, we innovate, and we push forward. It's not just about survival. It's about finding meaning and purpose, even in the darkest of times. The gods seemed to ponder these words. Your kind has suffered much, it said slowly. Wars, disasters, and countless struggles. Yet you continue to thrive. Is it because of this spirit you speak of? Yes, Dr. Ahmed confirmed. We've faced many hardships, but each time we've found a way to overcome them. Our spirit drives us to find hope where there seems to be none. It pushes us to stand up again, even after we've been knocked down. It's what keeps us going. The god nodded slightly, as if beginning to understand. But what about when there is no hope? It asked. When all seems lost and there is no way forward? Dr. Ahmed thought for a moment, then answered with conviction. Even then we find a way. It's not always easy, and sometimes it takes everything we have, but we keep moving forward. We find hope in each other, in our communities, in our families, and in the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. The god seemed to soften at this, its imposing presence less intimidating. You speak with passion, human, it said. This spirit of yours is indeed powerful. It is something I have not encountered in all my time. Dr. Ahmed felt a deep sense of pride in his words. He wasn't just speaking for himself, he was speaking for all of humanity. Our spirit is what unites us, he continued. It's what drives us to achieve the impossible, to dream of a better future. It's what allows us to face the unknown with courage and to find strength in each other. The god remained silent for a long moment, as if absorbing the weight of Dr. Ahmed's words. Finally it spoke, its tone filled with newfound respect. Perhaps this spirit is what makes your kind truly unique. It is not your technology or your intellect alone, but this inner fire that sets you apart. Dr. Ahmed nodded, feeling the connection between them growing stronger. Yes, it is, he agreed. And it's what will guide us as we continue to explore the universe, to learn and grow, and to face whatever challenges come our way. The god looked at Dr. Ahmed with a deep understanding. Your kind has much to offer, it said softly. I see now that your spirit is a force to be reckoned with, and it is something that even I, an ancient god, can learn from. In that moment, Dr. Ahmed knew that he had succeeded in showing the god what it truly meant to be human. The conversation had revealed not just the strength of human wisdom, but the indomitable spirit that lay at the heart of humanity. As the conversation between Dr. Ahmed and the ancient god continued, a subtle shift began to take place. What had started as a tense and cautious interaction was now evolving into something different, something neither of them had expected. The air in the chamber, once thick with the weight of centuries-old power, now felt lighter, almost welcoming. There was a new understanding between them, a bond that was beginning to form. The god who had once loomed over Dr. Ahmed with an imposing presence now seemed more at ease. Its glowing eyes no longer held suspicion, but curiosity and even a hint of warmth. You have shown me much about your kind, the god said, its voice no longer echoing with authority, but rather with a gentle tone of respect. I did not expect to find wisdom, spirit, and resilience in one so different from myself. Dr. Ahmed smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. He had come to the ancient temple seeking knowledge, but he had found something far more valuable. A connection with a being that was once thought to be beyond human understanding. And I have learned much from you, Dr. Ahmed replied. Your power and knowledge are vast, but you've shown me that even the most ancient of beings can learn from others. The god nodded, acknowledging Dr. Ahmed's words. Perhaps that is the key to true wisdom, it said thoughtfully. The ability to learn from those who are different, to grow through new experiences and perspectives. Dr. Ahmed agreed, feeling the truth in the god's words. Yes, it's through understanding and cooperation that we can truly advance, he said. We may come from different worlds, but that doesn't mean we can't find common ground. The god seemed to reflect on this for a moment. You speak of cooperation, it said. In my time, I was revered and feared by those who knew of me. But fear does not create lasting bonds. Perhaps it is time for me to forge a new kind of relationship, one based on respect and mutual understanding. Dr. Ahmed's heart lifted at the god's words. You're right, he said. Fear may command obedience, but it doesn't build trust or friendship. By working together, we can achieve so much more than we ever could alone. The god looked at Dr. Ahmed with a newfound appreciation. You are a remarkable being, human, it said. I never imagined that I would find a friend in one such as you, but now I see that our differences are what make this friendship possible. Dr. Ahmed felt a warmth in his chest at the god's words. It was a rare thing to connect with a being so ancient and powerful, but it was a connection that he now cherished. "And I am honored to call you a friend," Dr. Ahmed said sincerely. "Together we can explore new knowledge, share our experiences, and learn from each other." The god smiled. A small, almost imperceptible gesture, but one that carried great meaning. "Indeed we can," it said. "There is much I can teach you, and much I can learn from you as well. This friendship, born from our differences, will be one of strength and understanding." With that, the god extended its hand, a gesture of goodwill and partnership. Dr. Ahmed hesitated only for a moment before reaching out and grasping the god's hand. The contact was brief, but it was filled with a promise of cooperation and mutual respect. As they stood there, side by side in the ancient temple, Dr. Ahmed felt a sense of peace. The tension that had once filled the air was gone, replaced by a quiet understanding between two very different beings. They had come together not through fear or power, but through a shared desire to learn and grow. The god looked at Dr. Ahmed, its eyes glowing softly. "This is only the beginning of our journey together," it said. "There is much we will discover and many challenges we will face. But with our friendship, we will overcome them all." Dr. Ahmed nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. "Yes, we will," he agreed. "And I look forward to the journey ahead, my friend." With that, the two turned toward the entrance of the temple, ready to face whatever the future held. They were no longer just a scientist and an ancient god. They were allies, partners, and friends, bound by a shared spirit of discovery and cooperation.